And here we are. It's now, which means it's time for Sam Roberts Now. Live and direct, as always, from the beautiful and vivacious Not Sam Studios, which today, this evening, look even more beautiful and vivacious than normal. And that's because here with me is somebody, well, you've done kind of all the different incarnations, I feel like, or most of the shows that I've done. You've followed me on my journey, as it were, but this is the head CEO, chief person in charge of the amazing Troma film giant conglomerate. Ladies and gentlemen, the creator of The Toxic Avenger, the creator of Nukem High, the creator of Tromeo and Juliet and Poultrygeist, and it goes on and on. The creator of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and the creator of James Gunn.
Oliver Stone.
Creator of Oliver Stone.
Rolling Stones.
The creator of the Rolling Stones, ladies and gentlemen.
Kidney Stones.
Well, that's what he's working on now. The legendary Lloyd Kaufman is here.
Wow, Sam Roberts. You know, I have followed you for years, and finally I got to the head of the class here. This is like the big show, the final. Right?
I think so. I mean,
I've been filleting you. Finally, you get me on the real show. It pays off, folks.
Well,
I got lips like a woman, and Sam knows I can use them.
No, that's true.
Took me several years to finally get on this.
Well, you had to get your lips in shape, right?
Yeah. Well,
Practice
I had
perfect.
to work my way up the food chain.
Right.
First Howard Stern, and you know.
That's where you start.
I hate him.
But you hate Howard Stern?
Oh, I hate him.
How come?
He's full. I like his interviews when he interviews people. But other than that, it's fraternity shit.
Yeah, it's just not your thing.
And everything in his world is money. If it doesn't cost a lot of money, it's worthless. If the movie is made for a low budget, that by definition, it's no good. You see. But if it costs, but I'm sure he loved Suicide Squad.
You listen to his show.
He's a big fan of all the.
He loves the comic book movies. Yeah,
but because they cost $200 million. I don't believe he loves them because they're good movies. I don't believe he knows the difference between Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad.
Right. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy, you actually have a story and there's some substance.
It's
and
a brilliant film.
Something being done there.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that you have a cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, I had no idea I had a cameo. Uncredited prisoner number 2. I'm not even number 1, but I'm very grateful to James Gunn.
But you do have screen time.
I do indeed.
On there. I watched when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. That was my takeaway.
Murderer!
Yeah.
Murderer! That's how I did it. Murderer! And I got it down. It only took me 6 months to, really prepare and memorize the lines. But
you got it.
James is a great director. He wrote Tromeo and Juliet. He also wrote the first book that I wrote. All I need to know about filmmaking, I learned from The Toxic Avenger.
You did it. Well, it's good to have people like that writing your books.
I tell you, 100%, I'd say 99.9% of the people in the motion picture industry and related are scum of the earth. They are douches and douchettes of the most hypocritical, and those red carpets are, they should be brown. They're rape and semen stained. But the small number, the 1/2% of the of the people who are not scumbags are the best people in the world. James Gunn, Eli Roth, John Voight, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Sam Roberts.
Right.
I mean, they're the greatest people in the world, and I'm so happy to have worked with them.
How do people like that survive in the industry? Because I think you have managed to survive because you stay outside of it. Troma has always kind of remained independent and outside of the whole system. You guys do whatever it is that you want to do, and just try to be left alone until it comes time to get them to give you some money, and then you got to get but a James Gunn, an Eli Roth, people that have come through the Troma system end up, in big business Hollywood. How do they survive without becoming scum of the earth as well? How do they not get sucked into it?
They're good people. They are good people. They're decent, honest, talented, very, very talented people. And they would like to be part of the Oscar world, and they would like to have budgets where they don't have to do their own toilet cleaning and park the trucks at 4 a.m. to make sure nobody gets run over and, all that kind of stuff. The path that Michael Herz and I have chosen at Troma Entertainment, it's the hardest way to make a movie. I mean, we're making $20 million movies for $400,000. Ask Eli Roth about Mother's Day or Romeo and Juliet or most recently Return to Nukem High. These are the hardest things in the world to do, and to distribute and do all the other stuff that a studio does for 44 years. It's I wouldn't advise it. I think if you want to get the trappings of success, you should hook up with one of the vassals of one of these conglomerates and just be decent and talented, like Trey Parker and James Gunn and Matt Stone and Sam Roberts.
There has to be a severe level of bullshit that you don't have to deal with. That's the trade-off, right? When you're doing it yourself, you get to make the product the way you see fit. No?
Yes, I don't have to go pitch. I don't have to blow anybody. Honestly, I can tell Rose McGowan or whomever, Donald Trump or any of these clowns, to shut the fuck up and get out of my life. Right. I can do that. I don't have to worry about getting fired. The only thing I have to worry about is A, my wife of 44 years, and B, Michael Herz, my partner, both of whom can kill me. Michael Herz is much stronger and will kill me if I do anything too stupid. Yeah. And my wife will just rip my balls off, and that'll be the end of that. So they're the only two that I really, think about if there is something, that might be a little out there.
But you said something that I thought that was important there. There's not many people left that will kind of just see through it all without going through a particular political agenda. Like, it's easy to say, well, fuck Donald Trump, or it's easy for the other side to say, well, fuck Rose McGowan. But there's not that many people that kind of see the nonsense and hypocrisy on both sides and go like, well, yeah, screw them all.
Well, nobody talks to each other. I mean, it really is unpleasant. I mean, I went to Yale University, and the students there are beating up the professors figuratively. They have lynch. It's mob justice. Right. It's disgusting. And I have my 50th year coming up, and it's I really wonder whether I should even show up. I mean, the administration has doubled, and the number of professors has gone down. So that tells you the quality, and that's at Yale. And the professors.
Who's in the administration?
People who write letters to the students at Yale telling them that they have to be very careful about what they wear for Halloween. These are the smartest kids in them, right? They can't wear Aladdin. They don't want to appropriate anything. Right. And if you want to go on YouTube, you can see these students literally lynch mobbing a Nobel Prize winning, best-selling book writing superstar science professor. Not even political science. Science. They're like murdering the guy figuratively. They won't let him talk. They yell in his face.
What was the problem that they had with him?
His wife wrote an open letter saying, Yale students shouldn't be told necessarily how they have to dress for Halloween. They should be responsible enough to pick their own Halloween costume.
And the Yale students fight because they're like, we should not be given that responsibility.
Yeah, no, they're furious. Yeah, they don't want to see anybody wearing a Mexican hat, right?
But there was this thing where it's like, if you do something that's kind of like, well, that makes you an asshole for doing it, the punishment was everybody kind of knows you're an asshole, and that's it. There wasn't this thing where, like, we have to make sure that nobody even comes close to it because we can't trust anybody to make those decisions, and it just doesn't happen.
It's a pity that the art of the debate is gone. The free speech week, Berkeley was supposed to be ground zero for free speech, and there's nobody shows up for free speech weekend. So we have a
because they're firebombing when there's a speaker that they don't agree with.
Yeah, exactly. $400,000 of damage in one weekend. So and that's an Eleemosynary institution. I mean, it's really wacko. We live in a very wimp society too. Everybody's got to get an award. And in fact, if you're obese, you're not even allowed to say plus size now, right? We're supposed to pay. It's we got rid of tobacco because cancer is very expensive. It's economics drives everything, and nothing to do with health. It's that it costs the taxpayers a lot of money to take care of all the diseases that come with tobacco. Now you've got the billions of dollars of diabetes and other related diseases to a 40% obese society.
But all you see is books from people going like, "Well, you should be proud of your body."
Yeah, I know.
Like,
we
well,
can't
no,
say you can't
there's
say
healthy and unhealthy, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You can't say plus size, right? And God forbid we should tax sugar, right? Sugar. There's a huge sugar lobby, right? And I don't even think they're American. These sugar companies. I don't even think they're American.
It's amazing.
I could be wrong about that.
I mean, but it is a crazy world. Do you feel blessed that you have this your own audience, your own content creation factory? So it's like the people who go see Troma movies, right? You have to make an effort, and that's why we try to publicize it. Because obviously, I've been a fan of Troma movies for a long time from when I'm watching, Rhonda Shear on USA Network as a kid. But you, especially now, since there is no outlet like that on television, you have to seek out these movies, and it's like you're supporting what you like, but that's also a benefit because nobody's there to get offended by it, right? The people that would get offended by it are not seeking out the movie.
It's very liberating making art that nobody sees. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In other words, the progression of the industry since Michael Hers and I started Troma 44 years ago, which is we're the longest running independent studio in history, and I've been doing it for 50 years now. The industry has become a cartel. The rules that used to protect us against monopoly, protect the public against monopoly, are gone away with, to the point where we don't even have net neutrality, perhaps. So Troma's the last penis haver. You can't say male.
No, there is no male, female.
NPR
anymore.
has said that.
Well, did you see that the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, that there was a big thing, I think yesterday, he goes up, he's having this speech, right, and he's in front of everybody agrees with him anyway, there's no reason for any conflict, and somebody says something about all mankind, and he stops her mid-sentence, and he goes, "We don't say that, it's person kind."
Yeah, well, good. There you go. I agree with him. That's perfect. And he's got the word true in his, he's got that syllable.
He does.
True and dough, right? And I bet you there's plenty of dough coming his way.
I would imagine.
But the point is that there's no way for anybody to, there's no way for revenue to come to a company like Troma because all of the doors are shut because everything is controlled. The gateways to the public are controlled by a small number of these devil-worshipping international media conglomerates, and now you got a telephone company owning Time Warner. That's going to be a good development, huh?
So that brings us to net neutrality because you were one of the first people. I remember doing an interview with you probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and you started going off on net neutrality, and I start going like, what is this guy talking about? I've never even heard of this thing. Like, let's go back to the movies. I don't know what he's saying. And then, but it kind of stuck with me, and so it became this topic du jour when it came up that it was like, no, we're really getting rid of it. And it became this conservative liberal thing where suddenly you were a bleeding heart Democrat if you thought that net neutrality was good, and you were a hardcore Republican if you thought it was bad. And it was just, it was ridiculous because nobody was actually figuring out what the issue was. But to me, I get it. Okay, so net neutrality is basically making it so that the government has say over what companies can do with the internet, meaning private companies cannot sit there and use the internet for their own gain. They can't slow down websites for people. They can't tier off internet services to make things more expensive, and they can't do that. But I think that the opposing side of net neutrality, because I'd never seen an opposing side of net neutrality until this started happening, was the government. We're in a place where that respects private businesses. It's a business thing. It's capitalism, and the government should not be controlling what companies can do.
Here's the thing.
Right.
You can go to YouTube, type in Lloyd Kaufman and net neutrality, or Lloyd Kaufman explains media consolidation. Lloyd Kaufman explains media consolidation. It's very amusing, and it tells you the basic situation. The phone companies and Clinton and the big studios and all that wanted to have the internet declared a common carrier. If you make a telephone call and to me, and I agree to kill your wife,
sure, the
phone company is not held responsible. It's common carrier, and there's a number for the law too, Rule 2 or Rule. It's got some number, and it covers other things like that. But so they gave the phone companies, and the ISPs, the people
Internet
who run
service providers.
They gave them the status of common carrier to protect them. But in return, the phone companies are not, when the telephone, when you do that, they're not permitted to give you or me better or worse service. We're all supposed to have the same basic service. They can't favor.
Meaning cell service, AT&T can't go like, well, you'll have 3 bars, but if you want to pay more, I can give you 4 bars of service.
Or this data cap thing too. That's
right.
Now all this is going away, but the common carrier thing, they shouldn't be common carriers. Then if there's child pornography, Comcast should pay for it. They should go to jail
if they're in control of what the content is, right?
Exactly.
Yes, that makes sense.
If they're not, whereas the net neutrality thing, everybody's equal. The notsam website and the Disney website have parity. It's a level playing field. All the other parts of the media are no longer level. They're all now greased strippers poles. You can't climb them. You can't get up. The internet is the last democratic medium, and if net neutrality goes away, think of all the innovation that net neutrality provided. How would the public even know that there was a Netflix? How would the public even know about Kickstarter if there wasn't net neutrality? How about the vape? Do you use the grasshopper vape by any chance?
I don't.
It's a revolutionary vape. It's very, very good. A little too expensive, but the money to make that come off of Kickstarter.
Right.
All this innovation is a result of innovation, cancer cures, medical stuff, philosophy, term papers, all sorts of stuff. And when I say term paper, I mean PhD theses. This is all stuff that's come out of the net neutrality. Without it, we're going to have a homogenized McDonald's world. It's all going to be McDonald's.
Well, I mean, even the basics, right? Like building this studio and doing a YouTube show just because I can, or a podcaster going and making his living off of Patreon supporters, or whatever it is. Like those are the people who end up suffering for it. I guess the other argument is that, well, the Disney websites and the Amazons and the Googles of the world, they bring in all this traffic to the internet. So like the reason that I pay for the internet is so I can go to these websites that everybody goes to. So these websites are the ones that should get a break, which would make it tougher for little websites like notsam.com.
Well, I don't think that holds water, because the internet is the only reason that there is Patreon. The internet's the only reason that Disney is probably here. If it wasn't for that, who knows? Disney might not even be here without the internet. The problem is, like every technological breakthrough from the time I started, eventually the cartel, the 4 or 5 giant conglomerates, they take over. They take over, as they did with video, home video. Remember, they took over everything.
Right.
Blockbuster killed off all the independent video stores, and you ended up with the 50. You had a choice of 50 movies. You could have 50 copies of 50 movies, but Blockbuster never ever took a Troma movie ever.
Really? So, and that kills you, because if Blockbuster doesn't sign Troma to a deal, that became half the money people were spending on movies was going to Blockbuster every weekend.
Yeah, that was it. That was the market, because they put everybody out of business, and they were owned by Paramount. Viacom, who owns Paramount and MTV and all that. Now you have AT&T buying Time Warner, who owns HBO and Warner Brothers and a ton of other stuff. Yeah, I mean, we're going to suffer culturally. We're certainly going to suffer in the democratic First Amendment, and innovation will be stifled. It's going to be killed. And anybody who has a better brand of toothpaste, instead of being able to go on the internet and sell it yourself,
right,
you're going to have to go through Procter and Gamble, who are going to allow you, if they take it, they'll allow you a tiny little profit. And if you go on your own with no internet, the drugstore will have it in the back room, maybe, if people know to ask for it.
Well, that's the thing for me that I've been a supporter of net neutrality, is that it becomes this equalizer, in the sense that, you still have to do a lot of work for promotion, and you still have to do this, and you still have to do that, but it gives you the ability for your audience to find you if you can make yourself available to them. And what doing away with net neutrality does is it raises this high potential to make it so you can't, even if you wanted to, even if you had the wherewithal and the work ethic, and you're going to create this thing, and you just can't. You're not going to be able to find the audience because the audience isn't going to pay extra money to go to this website that's too slow because the only one that works is Amazon.
What the boys want, the cartel, what the club of the small number of these giant conglomerates and phone companies want, they want to create a super highway where they can put their content, and that'll be fast, and and they'll be able to get the public there, and the rest of us will be on this dirt road,
right.
And it takes a long time to buffer. And it'll be the equivalent of what's that TV people make TV shows, but only the mothers of those people. Public access TV. It'd be like public access TV,
right.
With all due respect.
I mean,
there's great stuff on public access
nobody
TV.
Sees it.
But except for people like me who have manic depression and are up at 4 a.m. and watching these great shows.
But it is like it's like okay, we have our audience. They're going to be at the train station at 4 p.m., right?
Yeah.
It's 3 p.m. now. All the big companies get the express train, and we have to get on the hour-and-a-half local train. That's like, we won't get there till 4:30.
Well, and the road won't, the tracks may be broken.
Right, exactly.
Troma gets about 500,000 people every month between the Troma Entertainment Facebook and my Twitter and all of our social and my fan site. There's about 500,000 people. We won't get anybody if we're on the dirt road. They'll all go away. Why would the worst thing is waiting for buffering, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's
going to do it.
Remember we were on trannies.com or whatever it was. Oh no,
that's not.
Sorry, YouTube. No, tubegalore.com.
Yeah,
it was Tranny Thursday. Sorry, it was Tranny Thursday. Well, it's all free, and but if you have to wait for buffering,
forget
man,
it. Forget
no
it.
way.
Forget it. So have you thought about okay?
Yeah, by the way, you'll have no more free porn. That's for sure.
Oh my God, that's what I said.
They're the only people who can afford to go on the superhighway. Troma's gone. We're smoke. We're history.
The first thing that
you'll
happened,
be here though, because you've got a huge following.
Well, I'll just have to try to figure it out. But I was sitting there and I was going, okay. When you turn on cable, right? These are the same. Cable company is the same thing as the phone company. Is the same thing as the internet company, right? When you turn on cable, you can get porn. Can you get it for free ever on cable? No.
No. Well, I wouldn't know.
Trust me when I tell you.
Okay.
You pay extra. Once these cable companies realize that everybody's going to want to watch porn regardless, we can block it. We can make you pay extra for the whatever 18 plus package or whatever it is. You're going to have to pay for porn again, which I feel like is so obvious. And the one thing that even the basic people could agree on, that we don't want to have to go back to those days.
No.
But
on a much more important level, although there's nothing more important than porn.
No.
At least crush porn. And no, not true. That is not true. The point is there are major issues. How would Bernie have fared without the net neutrality? Right? Bernie should have been president. It was stolen from
Madoff?
But right, I mean,
yes, no, absolutely.
He should be. He came close. A guy who's an old man who's.
Let's be honest. For all intents and
Brooklyn
purposes,
accent, a guy who almost became president.
Yeah.
Because of net neutrality in large part, he had the ability to get into everybody's head through all the different. So
right.
But there's countless.
The Democratic Party still was able to steal it from him, but they had to work a lot harder.
Angry video game nerd, the princess rap battles. These are talented, wonderful people who have made it's the American dream.
It really is.
And they're going to get, unless they can afford to be on the superhighway, and Comcast will have the right to what they call throttle. Mm-hmm. So if Comcast wants to push a movie from Universal, which they own, and maybe slow down temporarily Angry Video Game Nerd, they can do that.
Right.
And they'll certainly, you can be sure if we're up there, they're.
No, because they want those.
It's going to be horrible.
Those eyes are going to watch something, right? Those eyes are going to watch something. So it's let's get them over to our product instead of that guy's product.
Well, also the public had an NBC, CBS, ABC world for 50 years, right? I mean, we had no choice until the HBO and Showtime came along, and maybe video cassettes. Although video cassettes were mainly movies that had already been out and were So
Plus, in the beginning, they cost like $80-$90 a tape. Like,
oh my God, more! They were $199.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Class of Newcomb High was retailed at $109. Toxie, the early Troma movies were $200.
did you sell a lot of them?
We didn't. We were
$200?
We were with Vestron and Media Home Entertainment. Yeah, 350,000. Class of Newcomb High was sold the first run. 350,000, and I think it was $200 a VHS.
So have you thought about
Of
like?
course, we got nothing, but
Well, that's the beauty of these deals.
they took care of us,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
we got very little.
So have you thought about? Because obviously you have to think about like, okay, when the Blockbuster deal doesn't come through, you got to figure out how.
Well, the franchise, the interesting Blockbuster, the good point, and I'm glad you brought it up again. There were Blockbuster franchises which were owned by people who wanted to make a profit.
Sure.
They had variety. They did have Troma.
Interesting.
But there were only about 10% of the stores were franchised.
Really?
The ones that were owned by Viacom, Paramount, MTV, never had a Troma movie. And
So-
that was...
Viacom comes and buys out almost all the Blockbusters, but there's like 10% that are franchises, and those are the ones where you can go and find your cool, weird movies and stuff like that.
well, to a certain extent,
a
at
certain
least they had some Troma, but
Yeah.
we could get into those, but there were very few of them.
So obviously you have to. You're a guy who, in the industry that you're in, especially the way you're doing it, has to kind of duck and weave all the time and figure out where is this going? What can I do over here? Okay, if that doesn't work, I got to go in that direction.
There's no place to go for us if the net neutrality goes away. I don't know how we communicate with our fans. I don't know how they talk to us. I think we're done.
Really?
I mean, we're pretty done as it is. We haven't had a paycheck in years. We're no joke. I mean, Michael Hers and I love movies. That's it. That's the only thing propelling us. And the young people who work with us are movie nuts, and but we only have about 2 people working. No, we have 10 people, I guess. But it's hell. We barely can make payroll, and we have to put money from the movie Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead. That's a great movie, right?
Great movie.
Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead. It's a musical. It's an anti-fast food. It's got chicken Indian zombies. It's got everything. It's a great movie. Even the New York Times liked it.
Begrudgingly.
No, they liked it. They gave it a very enthusiastic. I mean, the real critics understand us. Museum of Modern Art just premiered Return to Newcomb High Volume 1, and the Museum of the Moving Image just premiered Return to Newcomb High, a.k.a. Volume 2.
Yeah, didn't they show Tromeo and Juliet recently at MoMA?
The museum,
too?
MoMA
That's
put
amazing.
that in their very limited Shakespeare. They had only 3 Romeo and Juliet movies, and Tromeo and Juliet was one of them, and that was the only one that was full, and it was 4 in the afternoon. So that tells you something.
Wow.
The Baz Luhrmann one was about barely half full at 8 at night. So people like our movies. The problem is they don't know about them, and they can't get to them, and they can't find them, and it's just impossible for us to get revenue. With the Poultry Guys, for example, basically my wife and I put up the budget, and 95% of it was not recouped.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a great movie.
It's just money that.
Well,
yeah,
it can't get it gets maybe 200 movie theaters where we lose money. It gets no TV, no cable. We distribute our own DVDs. That's it. That's all. Where there's no market. There's no way to get. We can't penetrate the hymen of the mainstream. And if we do penetrate the hymen of the mainstream, we're the ones who get fucked.
What about Netflix has never?
Oh, they're horrible. We started them. Yeah, we were there when they needed us.
So.
That's what happens. Whenever when there's new technology like HBO,
right?
Oh, we love Troma. We get in with us now. We don't have any money, but you get in with us, and when we start rolling, you'll be there with us. HBO. Netflix for sure. They all say the same thing, and we know it because we're desperate.
Right.
So we agree. Okay, we'll go in, give us a few breadcrumbs, and then they get nastier and nastier, and that's the end of it.
So Netflix wouldn't. So you were
$8 billion on content they're spending.
That's what I'm saying.
And I guarantee you that 99% of it will not be as good as Return to Newcomb High, aka Volume 2.
Yeah,
no question about it. Yet there we are.
There are some great things on Netflix. I watch Netflix all the time.
Very good.
You turn on stuff and some of it's horrible.
Well,
and you would think too that people who watch. I mean, I guess everybody watches Netflix now, but there's such a huge audience of people that are the manic depressives that are up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They're up. I mean, they're like literally the audience that would watch a movie late night on cable when Troma got that wave in like the mid 90s or so.
Look, I just was.
That's Netflix. Like you're watching Netflix late at night.
I was in Toronto for the opening of Return to Nukem High. There were so many people they had to add a show. This was they did Volume 1 and Volume 2 and had a weekend of Return to Nukem High. They had to add a show. They couldn't keep the people were filling up the theater was overflowing with people with no advertising. So the point is, people want to see our movies, but they can't get them.
Right.
They can't get them. There's no way to get them.
And so you almost see net neutrality as like, look, we've been screwed around by all these businesses. Like, this is going to happen to everybody else now, and you can't let it.
No, you can't let it. You can't. They look at the innovation. Look at Uber. Look at Uber. My God, what a luxury. Uber, although we use Juno because Juno pays the drivers a third more than the others do. But what a great convenience that is. My gosh, I can drive drunk, right? In California, I used to drive totally shit-faced.
Is that right?
Oh, my God. And thanks to this car service thing, you don't have to rent a car.
Right.
And you can get as high and drunk and fucked up as you want. I mean, that alone is reason to keep net neutrality.
You would think.
But you would think, yeah. And there's so many wonderful... Look at the world before the Internet and look at the world after the Internet, right?
It's way better.
It's of course it's way better.
Well, just the idea that, I mean, you can create. Like, it's a place where you can create stuff, whether it's a business like Uber, whether it's content, whether it's whatever. It's like it's a place where you can create, and I feel like people would want to leave that alone, right? Because anybody can do that.
Yeah, but Rupert Murdoch and the cartel does not want you, Sam Roberts, getting directly to the public. They want you to go. They want to own your content. They want to own everything. Look, the window wiper guy. He created the window wipers, right? He had to go through Ford. They didn't pay him till he was 86 years old. He had to sue them for like 40 years. That's the way the world is going to be. If you have something innovative, you're going to have to go through Ford or MGM, or you won't be able to get to what's her name, Grace, right? Amazing. What's her name, Grace, Daily Grace.
She's Grace Helbig?
Yeah, Grace. Yeah. But she did it herself. She's cute and funny and intelligent and fair and she's got it all and she's brilliant. She couldn't. But I guarantee you, she if she had to go through the mainstream,
wouldn't happen.
Right? She'd have Harvey Weinstein. She'd have
that's what she'd have to deal
with. She'd have
with.
Everybody going after her, and she probably wouldn't make it because she's original and different, right?
Yeah, no, 100%, and doing things that maybe wouldn't make sense in a pitch meeting.
Lacey Green's another one. Lacey Green, very entertaining YouTuber. And educational, where there's so much education that is due to net neutrality.
You also have to figure
it's a crime,
and you have to figure out too, like, do you want the government in control of your stuff? No. But then instead of the government, do you want the top 5 conglomerate corporations in charge of your stuff? No, that seems worse. Right? That's worse.
The Commissioner Pai, his name is Pai, P-A-I, but it's pronounced shit pie. His point is that this is regulation. We shouldn't have regulation. We should have a free internet. We should let people do, a free internet to create a superhighway where they can throttle you and me, a rotten thing below, dirt road. Yeah, that's not fair, especially since Clinton gave the big shots the label of common carrier, which protects them against lawsuits or slander or pornography or whatever's on the internet.
Right. So now they keep the protections, but also get
exactly. And this has been. I started this, and the reason I got myself elected chairman of the Independent Film and Television Alliance, which is the trade association for the independent moving picture industry, movies and TV, basically, which includes everything, was to use the Treasury to go and lobby in Washington to try to fight the Comcast merger and to protect net neutrality. And I did it. We did lobby for 4 years. And Jean Pruitt, our president, she's our staff head. I'm elected, non-paid, and just have a minor influence. But she and I went to Washington. She testified at the Comcast hearings, and Al Franken, who thanks to our Duchettes the one senator that was working for us is gone. He called Brian Roberts, the chairman of the board of Comcast, a liar, and indeed he was a liar. He got caught throttling. He got caught in lots of lies, and it wasn't just Al Franken who called him a liar. He got called a liar in Philadelphia by the Democratic commissioner under Obama, or maybe it was under Bush. It was one of them, but he was called out.
I was going to ask you about your movies.
But anyway, we did have a bit of an effect on Comcast, and we did get them, thanks to Gene Pruitt, we got them to agree to talk to independent producers, which they weren't answering the phone for independent producers who were into television. I'm not into television. And we got them to create a fund for independent TV producers that were required to be, that fund was required to be used for independent TV programs. I don't believe Comcast has lived up to that, and I'm no longer chairman, so that's the end of that.
So what's the deal that people can do, though? I mean, because we see on the news that net neutrality, the repeal of net neutrality was passed, so... I mean,
the FCC passed it, yes. So what we have to do as citizens is go to our elected, in my opinion, the only thing we can do, because the Justice Department, as you know, is full of shit, and the FCC is obviously full of shit. But bombard everybody, but most important, bombard your local congressperson, because they're living at the public trough. They're gouging themselves. They're making millions. They're getting $250,000 a year, plus special Social Security and special health care and raises. Doesn't matter if it's 2008 and we're in a depression. They get raises. They even get like this special pension thing after 2 years or something to get a pension, right? I mean, they live
nice.
like the Roman Senate, and they've got staffs and cars, and they swan in. What's her name? The old hag who runs the Congress, the minority hag. She's rich. She's been in there forever. Well, no, okay, I got a brain fart, but you know I'm a Democrat.
Sure.
Right? She swans into shows late on Broadway. They hold the curtain for her.
Of course they
it's
do.
a friggin' what is this?
And
the vice president under Obama, right? Got $2,000 suits. How does that happen?
Biden.
Do you think that John Adams, when he was vice president under Washington, went to Barney's for $2,000 suits or whatever? I mean, this is terrible.
It's
terrible.
ridiculous. It really is
it's
insane.
absurd. So tell your local congressman that if net neutrality goes, you're going to make sure that they go.
Yeah.
That you're not going to elect them anymore. And that's the only thing they want. They want to continue feeding at the public trough. Doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Schumer, the right publicity hog, or the one upstate, the Congressman King, who's probably one step away from Trump. You know, I mean.
Yeah. And clearly,
you got to tell them we're not going to elect you if you take away our First Amendment privilege of net neutrality.
And I hope that you could also tell, based on Lloyd's commentary on people, that this doesn't really, this isn't Democrat or Republican or whatever. This is just like a benefit to us as people.
It's
right?
It's just free speech.
Right. Exactly, which I think everybody's in agreement on.
Right now, we have free speech as long as we don't say anything, thanks to the mood of the beauty sphere or whatever you call it.
The beauty of the internet right now is that we do have freedom of speech, but the users of the internet don't want anybody to have it.
Well, there's certainly a lot of very forceful people out there whose modus operandi seems to be to destroy other people. That's all they seem to want to do.
Right.
And that's third-rate bloggers, right? Third-rate bloggers, right?
But they want to destroy other people in the name of uplifting everybody.
That's
which
right.
Is not.
Yeah. No debate. No. Mob justice.
Yes.
Mob justice on the internet.
So, the film industry changed a lot in terms of CGI, especially as it became, now it's affordable. Like people, you can, you see an independent film, people use CGI, but I always felt like something that I liked growing up watching Troma films, and the thing about Troma films that made me want to make films after watching them was that you could kind of look at it, and the more you watched it, start to figure out how you could do stuff like that. And it was clear when you're watching these things that you guys didn't have to go to film school to figure out how to do this. You're just on set, how do we make it look like this head blew up? Well, what if we took this, and what if we filmed it that way? And it's okay, this is actually doable. And I noticed I haven't seen Return to Nuke 'Em High, a.k.a. Volume 2 yet. But I obviously saw the first one, Return to Nuke 'Em High Volume 1. And while there was some CGI, there was still a ton of in-camera stuff. Is it difficult for you to continue to justify doing the in-camera stuff?
Well, again, one of the reasons Troma is ahead of the game. I mean, again, look at Toxic Avenger 30 years ago. You've got the Deadpool, which is like a Toxic Avenger.
Totally.
25 years later, and the directors love Toxic Avenger. They love Troma. You know, I'm honored. Deadpool is fabulous.
Right.
But we're a little too early to the game. I had the nerve to say something on Twitter to sort of suggest that Harry Knowles was being lynched, figuratively, and oh my gosh, the third-rate bloggers were all over me. I still want to know what he did. What did he do? There's a huge guy, a big fat guy in a wheelchair with leukemia who created Ain't It Cool News. He was crude, apparently. He might have been crude 25 years ago. Well, okay, if he was, that's disgusting, and maybe he's a disgusting guy. But you know, he's lost his business. He's been totally destroyed. I'm sure he's going to hell mentally. You know, they were supposed to have kind of. You know, guilty until
innocent.
Innocent. I mean, that's what we're doing now. It's guilty until innocent. We're not.
Right.
We're not supposed to be innocent until guilty.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that stuff that's really ugly, and people who are stupid and lazy and hypocritical are trying to make their bones on it.
Mm-hmm. But what do you do? But
I mean, Al Franken's perfect example. Why pick on that guy? He's a great senator. All he did was a stupid high school. I mean, he was on Saturday Night Live. What do you expect from somebody? You know, right? I'm sorry if I offended somebody. Go see my movies. You know, I mean,
yeah, no.
Haven't you seen my movies?
I saw the Al Franken photos, and I was like, it doesn't. Like, I would love to get behind this, but it's not there. Like, it's not the sexual.
Yeah.
But he made the mistake of making enemies.
Well,
and you make enemies, and those enemies came, and we're like, well, technically, what we're doing is we're trying to kill you for this other stuff, but if we can do it in the name of this right here, we can get you for that stuff here.
Well, the fuck of it is, Kristen Gillibrand, the big women's rights, the big vagina havers rights champion,
right,
is one of the ones who told him to get lost, who
right,
signed that thing. My daughter worked for Al Franken. And along with 13 other young vagina havers, signed a letter stating that they had never seen Al Franken do anything that was out of bounds.
Right. Yeah. Well.
So now we lost the guy. But the good news is we've got this Nunez guy with his memos, and we've got these people in Louisiana. We got these wonderful 80-year-old hags running around in California. I mean, really, and Schumer, this television whore. I mean, they're never going to go away, right?
No. That's a career.
I'm sure that whatever they have done, they've done worse than anything Al Franken could even think of.
But going back to, is it difficult to justify not like using cheap CGI in your movies now?
Well, in Volume 1 of Return to Newcomb High, I believe the only CGI we used was to get rid of some strings, I think. I don't recall that we really had any CGI. But
right.
Volume 2, we have used CGI. Now, you brought up a good point that when you look at a Troma movie, you can kind of see backstage, you can see the rough edges. And
not in a bad way, but in a way like this feels like somebody created it. Yeah.
It's sort of fun. I rather liked it. You know, I was a big fan of Bertolt Brecht, who did a lot of breaking the fourth wall, as did Thornton Wilder, and now we used to do it in the 70s, and a lot of the so-called film buffs would criticize us because they said it's corny to have an actor suddenly turn to the camera and start talking to the camera. Well, I'm sorry, Bertolt Brecht did it, and many before him. But we've been doing it now forever. Deadpool does it all the time.
Sure.
Right? They also had a disfigured person. They had a blind girl. They clearly have seen our movie. And
right.
I'm delighted. But the point is that you raise a very good point, because CGI, we can't do the CGI that the big boys can, right?
Sure.
We can't squash a head the way the big boys.
No.
But we developed the cantaloupe method. We carve out a cantaloupe, put a wig on it, paint a little happy face on it, stuff it with cranberry juice and spaghetti and stuff. No more meat products because I'm vegetarian.
Oh, good.
And then you can crush a head very realistically.
But I think that there's something more tangible about doing it that way, where maybe it doesn't look quite realistic, but there's something about watching it that you can feel it.
Well, actually, most of our effects look very realistic. The practical effects, the head crushings, nobody knew was a melon until we told people.
Uh-huh.
But getting back to the CGI, we can't. To me, when I look at a James Bond movie or one of these $200 million movies and I see an explosion, or I see blood spattering or whatever, it always looks fake no matter how rich they are.
Sure.
So we're not getting into that part of the world. We
Yeah.
we can't compete with all these giant, what's that boring movie, Dunkirk. We can't compete with that.
No.
Or any of these movies.
No.
But we have used CGI in Volume 2 in a way that nobody has ever used it, in a very abstract, I want to say psychedelic. It's very there. It's very breaking the fourth wall. You're going to be very aware of it, but you're going to be totally amazed by it. It's terrific. And we've got this guy. He's a genius named Walker, and he's a true artist, and he's just great. And the CGI in Volume 2, I guarantee you, there are going to be people copying it.
I believe it. You directed,
but it's not realistic. It's Tromalistic.
Right.
But it's brilliant.
It's
and
on the nose.
Walker is a brilliant person.
So you've directed in your time, and up until the current Nukem High movies, lots of sex scenes, nudity, lesbianism, all that stuff.
Yes.
Especially as these stories start to get more and more and more and more. And the last thing I heard was somebody literally saying, well, James Franco is on the Me Too list because he made me feel uncomfortable because I was topless in a movie that he did. And I was like, well, you agreed
I thought
to...
it was a lot worse than that. I thought he had pushed some minor's head in. I mean, there's just who knows? But,
who knows? But
he's definitely a talented dude. I mean, everything he does is worthwhile.
Do you worry?
Except for pushing somebody's head into his dick. I mean, that's not worthwhile.
That's not as worthwhile.
But his movies are, to me, wonderful.
Great. Do you worry that anything like that is going to come back to haunt you because of times changing, or do you stand by everything that you've done, and because of that, there's nothing to worry about?
If you read the New York Times, gay, lesbian, transvestite, transsexual, these are the Bruce versus Caitlyn.
Sure.
These are there's the style section. This is what they worship. We made Sugar Cookies, which was our version of Vertigo, lesbianic Vertigo, 1971, I think it was. So I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think there's anything. The only thing I regret is we took on a movie. We didn't make it, but we restored it to its original uncut version. It had come out all chopped up and was a flop, and we called it Blood-Sucking Freaks.
Yes.
And we restored all the stuff that was removed, and I wouldn't do that today. That is a very bad movie. It's an evil movie. People love it, but it's
you don't stand by that one.
I don't try to sell, although I guess I'm talking about it now. People are going to go out and want to see it, but I don't. We probably should not distribute that movie. I think it's too much.
That's interesting.
Well, it's so misogynistic. That's the problem. Yet it's very funny, and it's grand guignol, and it has a following, and women love it, and men love it. But again, we're a cult studio,
Yes.
Even the Toxic Avenger. You go to California, you'll be amazing how many suits in our industry. I've never heard of the Toxic Avenger or Troma, for that matter.
Wow.
So our fans are the best, but it's a classic cult.
Yes.
Classic cult studio, and we're the last ones, unfortunately. We're the last ones standing. It's a pity.
So as we talk about cult films and we talk about James Franco, this year, because of Franco, Tommy Wiseau and The Room became, they just grew to huge heightened awareness of this thing. Is there any part of you that it's like, I wish somebody would do something like that for the Troma universe? Not to say it's not that, because The Room was just so bad. Like, you guys don't make bad movies like that, but in the sense that this was a guy who went out and did this crazy little independent movie with no backing, and just because he wanted to make a movie, and they make this big Hollywood blockbuster poetic tale of it, and now there's attention at the Oscars, and there's attention at the Golden Globes, and everybody's talking about it, and I'm sure the guy is selling a ton of DVDs on his website because of it. Do you look at that and go like, well, the Toxic Avenger, the story of how that whole thing came about, we just made it up in this town in Jersey, and it became this cartoon show, and it became this thing it was a huge deal. I mean, that's a movie in and of itself, isn't it?
I've got no complaints. I've written 7 books about some about the Troma history and
you
the
wrote
Troma
6.
method.
James Gunn wrote 1.
Pardon?
You wrote 6 books. James Gunn wrote.
James Gunn wrote the first one I wrote, but Trent Hager wrote the second one I wrote, and Adam Chunky wrote the third one I wrote, and I can't even remember who wrote the others. But obviously, I had a major hand in all this stuff, and I did a lot of the writing. But I rather, unlike Hillary Clinton, who doesn't even put her ghostwriter on the cover,
right.
my associate writers with whom I actually did write a lot of these books. I want them to have full credit. Why not?
Right.
And look, it paid off. Right? In fact,
of course.
I was advised not to put James Gunn's name on the thing because it was supposed to be all about me on the first book. Good thing I did.
Oh
right?
my God! Yeah.
Yeah, it was big too. It was big on the cover. But so that was right because the guy's talented and he deserved to have the credit, and he still does.
But so you don't.
You mean I want the credit?
Yeah, doesn't acknowledge that. You don't. But you don't.
No,
look
he's
at
the
that.
best. He talks more about Troma than his. When he's interviewed, half of the interviews tends to be about Troma. His best friend he met on Romeo and Juliet. James Gunn's, his circle of friends all came through. Mostly came through Troma experience.
We talked about Eli Roth a little bit ago.
He's great too. He's a wonderful guy.
Did you see The Green Inferno?
I did.
I thought it was just great.
Yeah,
you talk about a movie that doesn't get made like that. That is such like a throwback to like the 70s, and obviously this thing that Eli Roth had a passion for. But that movie, had it not been for Eli penetrating the system, I guess, would never, a cannibal movie, going into the rainforest and stuff, that doesn't get made in the 2000s anymore. But yet there we are with this product, and I mean, I think it's great.
He again, I don't know him that well, but we've known each other, got to be since he did the dialogue. He did the comment. Eli Roth did the commentary track on the DVD of Bloodsucking Freaks, and he definitely loves that movie. So I could be wrong. Maybe it's not as evil as I think, because he loves movies. He's a guy who loves movies. You talk to him, this movie Pieces. He'll say, "Oh, that elevator scene, the elevator." Right? I mean, he loves movies, and that's what propels him, and that's great. And he's very talented, and he's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
I turned down a cameo in Cabin. He was a big Troma fan. He still is. I turned down a part in Cabin Fever because Ramsey Abed had already committed to an underground guy who was doing a Lynch type of movie in incredibly boring movie that nobody ever heard of. But I had told the other guy I would do it, and I couldn't do
Cabin Fever.
If I was a typical scummy mainstream person, I imagine I would have gone to Eli and probably not even told Ramsey Abed that I wasn't going to show up on his set.
Right, just not go. Is Guardians your favorite cameo that you've done, or are there others?
Well, I have a very good cameo in Sharknado Part 4. It's excellent, and thank you for having seen that.
Yeah.
Rocky, of course, one of my early cameos.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
Yeah, the drunk in Rocky and Saturday Night Fever. And I've got about, I don't know what my favorite one is. I'm certainly, the one I get the most take up on is Guardians of the Galaxy, and actually that just further embitters me because I've been making movies for 50 years, and the only thing anybody says to me that they seem to admire is my 2 seconds as the uncredited prisoner number 2 in the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. But yet I'll still blow James Gunn if he wants to put me in his next movie.
Now,
and I'm pushing hard. You can ask James. Every time I see him, I tell him I want that cameo. Fucking Stan Lee. I've known Stan Lee for 50 years too.
Were you blown away when the sex assault accusations started coming out?
Again,
Stan Lee feeling up his nurses?
Apps bullshit.
Right.
I've known the guy very, very well. I mean, we've written a script together at the very least. He wrote the introduction to one of my books. I mean, this is like Shakespeare's wife, beyond reproach. I've never heard him use it. The only time I ever heard him get angry was somebody in his group put something out online about politics, and he got pissed off because I think he doesn't want to go in that area.
Yeah.
Luckily, we haven't talked politics at all.
Not yet. I'm trying to inch you there, but you're stubborn, man. You don't like to.
I think. Luckily, I haven't done anything that anyone could possibly. Luckily, nobody's listening, so they've shut off probably the minute they heard I'm on. So.
Or they shut off the minute like you insult whichever politician they're on the side of, because you've insulted Republicans and Democrats equally by my ears, but the Democrats hate that you were insulting the Democrats, and the Republicans hate you for insulting the Republicans.
The point is, I'm a tiny little. They don't even. I'm not even on their radar. But there's no question about it. Al Franken was one of the few who cared. Bernie is one of the few who cared. Bernie could have been president. We could have been, we could have been friends with most of the world instead of hated.
Do you?
Although I must say, I kind of feel it. That every day I get up, what's going to happen to?
It's
sort of
fun.
like
It is fun.
The old Watergate days. We used to, before your time.
Before my time.
Michael Herz and I, we'd grab the New York Post and read Pete Hamill and what's going on this today. It was
I mean, I'll be honest.
fascinating.
I've been having a great time, just like for that reason. Exactly, waking up every morning and just trying to figure out like what craziness is going to happen.
The clown car. It just keeps.
It's incredible.
Today they've got a woman who was in charge. She's a one-woman company. She was in charge of $200 million worth of food meals in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. Right, one-woman company, and she delivered 50,000 out of the 170 million or 200 million meals, but they were delivered the wrong way. So, and how about the guy who was supposed to be rebuilding the grid in Puerto Rico?
Right,
the two people company or something with a $1 billion contract, right. And the guy, they fired him finally. But
that's too bad.
Every day there's something. We just hope that we're not going to wake up and find that we've given North Korea a bloody nose,
right,
which they want to talk about.
Was there ever a time when you wanted to be more than like an independent company, meaning like you're like, wait, I want Troma to be like the biggest thing ever. I want Troma to be one of the big boys. I want it to be the biggest sci-fi horror whatever movie house, like even when you were younger?
I'd never had interest in that. Well, first of all, I never knew anything about. I never even thought about movies till I was at Yale, and I happened to be roomed in my tiny bedroom with the head of the Yale Film Society, and started wandering into the movies they were showing, and unfortunately, I speak French, being a bourgeois, well-educated, and they had the magazines of the Cinémathèque Française piled up in the office of the Film Society at Yale. So I start thumbing through those things, and they're written by Godard and Chabrol and these other film noir guys who were transitioning from journalist to filmmaker, and they were expounding the auteur theory of filmmaking, where the director has to have total control. The director should be the author, the author of the movie.
Right.
His heart and her or whatever heart, I guess you can. That person's heart, soul, and brain must be dominant in the film, and so I bought into that. So that's why I stayed in New York and stayed in the underground. And if we can get lucky, as we've done with Toxic Avenger, and hey, I've got no complaints. My God, I've been doing this for 50 years, and I'm doing a movie this summer. I'm going to do Shakespeare's The Tempest.
My God! And
my favorite play.
Without doing any spoilers, I got to see Tromaville for the very first time, very recently, and do the read through of that movie.
For the table reading, thanks for doing
table
that.
Read.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a hilarious movie.
Oh, great!
It really is. I mean, the script that I read.
Well,
I was looking forward to.
It's better now. And February 15th, this is something that John G. Avildsen, who directed Rocky, Karate Kid, with whom I was friendly for my entire career, who was also my pot Buddha. He, who's unfortunately died very recently, he told me to try to find a place like the comic strip or the improv or someplace and get actors to read the script to a live audience. And we're doing that on February 15th. I've never been able to rent. I've never had the money to rent a club, and I've never been able to get a club to understand that maybe we're worth doing this. And finally, Troma's respected enough. So the Pit on February 15th, the Pit's giving us a stage, the theater, their big theater where we had Troma dance.
I was there. Free. I was on one of the panels.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, that was great.
You were there.
And you filled it up, by the way.
Well, that was free entry. It's all free. The Pit this time is letting us perform at 9 o'clock at night on February 15th. They're going to let a bunch of us read do what we did, except do it on stage to a live audience. And it'll be very interesting to see what we learn from that. Because Avildsen always said that, that since I delve in comedy, into comedy, that's would be the best way to do, but I could never afford it. So finally, the dream come true.
I did want to, before we run out of time, let everybody watching know that you're still, as a creator and a businessman and whatever, you're still looking for all kinds of new avenues and mediums, and you recently entered into the world of...
Wait a minute, you said man. No.
Oh, penis having American.
Yes.
Yes, that's much better. I don't want to get in trouble. And you recently, though, entered the world of pro wrestling.
Well, actually, I've been involved for, I'd say, about 7 years, thanks to SuperCon, which is a great pop art convention in Florida. And they have a wrestling league there in which I've wrestled twice now with Toxie as his partner.
Yeah, I wanted to show it.
Here are your winners and your NCAA Tag Team Champions, the team of Lloyd Kaufman and the Toxic Avenger! Can you believe it? Wow, anything can happen here.
Oh, and you raised the roof, too.
Well, the whole idea here was after the pin, I threw myself at him and knocked him. It was quite a stunt, actually. One was called Rat, something Rat, and the other one was called, oh God, I can't remember the names of the characters we won, but we won the championship, at least that weekend. But the idea was I wanted to do the Al Franken picture when the guy was down pinned, and that's why I was doing that with my hands on his breast. But the guy with there was all this yelling and screaming, and I was trying to get the guy to go to the right spot, but we never really got the Al Franken picture. But that's what I was trying to get. If you go to my Instagram, Lloyd Kaufman, I think I have some decent stills of it. In fact, I did quite a few Al Franken photos.
So where...
I did them before Sackett did, I think.
Is that right?
Sackett and the other guy, Bill Maurer.
Where can people make it a point to see Return to Nukem High, a.k.a. Volume 2? Because, I mean... For those of you that don't know, Nukem High is one of the great... There's a handful, actually, of great franchises that came out of Troma. Of course, the Toxic Avenger is the end-all, be-all, but I would say Nukem High is right under...
We've made 5
Toxic
Nukem High
Avenger.
movies.
Yeah, I would say
5. We have no money. I don't know how. I can't imagine. I don't know how we did it.
And I love getting to see that it's this year, and we can see new Troma films in theaters. I saw... the posters on the wall, Return to Nukem High Volume 1. I saw it in a theater with you, and, a whole crowd full of people and everything, and it was just awesome because you don't get to experience stuff like that anymore.
Our fans want to see our movies on a big screen. They like the communal viewing.
Yes.
And also, we have thousands of people in our movies and lots of stuff in the background, what you call shtick, funny stuff that if you don't see it on a small screen, Return to
I should probably be doing my show on a big screen because of all these little tchotchkes I have all over the place, right?
Well, you should put them in the back if you're going to do that.
There's stuff behind us, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
but we have things moving. We've got gags going on, stuff that we rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
We take a lot of time. Sometimes we take more time for the background than we do for the leads, and the leads get pissed off. Return to Nukem High, a.k.a. Volume 2. March 8th, it opens in Los Angeles at Laemmle's Fine Arts, and also the NoHo, the North Hollywood Theater 7. So if you're in L.A., please buy a ticket because Uncle Lloydie's has no more funds left to make the next. I mean, we'll make it. I think The Tempest will get made, but after that,
not looking good.
I need money for my funeral. Yeah. Please. I'll be dead soon. Have some respect.
Where can people get tickets and all the dates and everything?
By the way, New York. You should tell your New York theater because we're losing a lot of screens here in New York. The Toxic Avenger is going to be playing with a documentary called a mockumentary called Toxic Tutu, Tutu, because Toxic wears a tutu.
That's right.
And his hashtag is Me Tutu.
Great.
Instead of Me Too. That's going to be playing around the same time in March at the Yonkers Alamo.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
And I'll be there.
Oh, really?
And Joe Nardelli, and Mark Torgel, who played Little Melvin in the first Toxic Avenger.
He's going to be at the Alamo in Yonkers?
And also in the first Turn-On. He played an amazing role in the first Turn-On. Hilarious. He'll be there in person. And I think it's around March 10th or 3rd or 8th or 10th. It's somewhere.
Well, I'll be there.
It's all over the... You can find it on the Troma.com.
Okay.
My fan site is LloydKaufman.com. That's got my appearance schedule, I hope. The fans run it, and they're very good at doing that. I hope they have the latest schedule. But we need a New York theater. We don't have one, and we've lost the Sunshine Theater here. We've lost maybe 20 screens here in New York in the last year.
So is Yonkers going to play Return to?
Well, I want to get a Manhattan theater that will play it for a week, like we did with Volume 1, and then hook the other theaters. Like the Nighthawk wants to go for a few days, and we get the Alamo and try to piece together enough so we can take some advertising so people will know that it's opening, like we did with the first one, with Volume 1 of Return to Newcomb High.
Well, Lloyd, this
Philadelphia,
is,
by the way, March 1st, Philadelphia, the Trocadero. I'll be there. And this weekend, we're
live.
So this weekend, starting the 9th through the 11th, I'll be in the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention with all the Toxie and the merch and Tromettes, free signatures. We'll have we'll have Double Dementia, the famous Tromette, with us, Toxie. We'll have some of the stars from Return to Newcomb High Volume 2. This weekend at the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention, Villain Arts Tattoo Convention at the Convention Center in Philly. And then March 1st is the premiere in Philadelphia. So there are quite a few play dates. If I make a movie, we can get about 200 theaters. But we need the New York. We need that as a real engagement, not just a one weekend.
Well, I gotta tell you, I think it's important to support. I mean, everybody knows I'm a big movie fan, but I just think it's important to support independent film and creators and things like that. So if you're at any of these conventions, odds are Troma's going to have a booth somewhere. Buy a couple DVDs. If you see any of this stuff happening in a town near you, if you have anywhere near the opportunity to go see Return to Newcomb High Volume 2, aka Volume 2, in LA, in Philly, wherever you are, buy a ticket, go see it. If you're in the
fans actually tell the theaters. Go tell your theater.
Tell the
works.
theaters, yeah.
If you get 5 or 6 people to tell a theater manager, they'll at least play it a night or two.
And go ahead and
I can show up. I go to about 25 theaters out of the 200. I physically go there and we make a big show and do bring a Toxie and do a traumatic evening.
And you're on YouTube anyway, so go ahead and YouTube the trailers. You can see everything. And
we have about 300 free movies.
If you want, watch. What are the do you have
Troma movies on YouTube? Troma movies on most of all our classics are there for free, and then we have the streaming service. We have our version of Netflix called Troma Now. Watch.troma.com, and those are the world premiere movies like Kansas Bowling's BC Butcher and Hectic Knife and Grindsploitation, and we have Volume 1 playing there now exclusively. I don't think it's playing anywhere except Troma Now.
Wow.
And Volume 2 will have its non-theatrical debut on Troma Now. So subscribe. It's only $4.99 a month. First month is free.
It's great.
And you can see everything in the first month. 2 or 3 premieres every month, and then about a dozen curated Troma movies that go with the theme.
Well,
Foxy February. We're in Foxy February right now.
We are in Foxy February, yeah.
So the Troma has a great themed month on Troma Now.
A lot of Foxy Troma movies.
Really good movies too. Amazing movies.
Well, Lloyd, you're always a pleasure, and I very much appreciate you making the trip to the Not Sam Studios and being here with me and being a part of Sam Roberts Now. It's a thrill, and I'm sure a thrill for everybody that's been watching. I see people jumping in on the super chat. Not Sam's mom, Not Sam fan fuck. It's been awesome.
Well, you're awesome, Sam, and thank you so much. And I hope that perhaps you will play a part in Troma's The Tempest when we film this summer. Iambic pen. It'll be like
I'll perform oral on you for a part if need be.
You're so talented.
Oh, good.
Not necessary.
Oh, good.
You're amazing. And
don't forget to follow Lloyd Kaufman across social media at Lloyd Kaufman, and you can look up Troma Films and go to Troma.com and LloydKaufman.com. You can follow the show, Sam Roberts Now. It's Sam Roberts Now on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and do all 4 of those things so you can get updates every time we do a live show. Whenever we go live, we're just going to send a thing out that says we're going live now. So if you want to be a part of the live show, that's when you got to do it. Thank you again, Lloyd Kaufman.
Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Sam's fans.
And as we always say, you've got 5 styluses. You might as well use them. Have a good night, everybody. This has been Sam Roberts Now.
Troma.